Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the QuietCarry Knives Drift 2.0. Very, very interesting knife here, and to start with, though, I actually want to thank QuietCarry for sending this guy along. I reviewed the original Drift a while back, and then recently I saw, hey, wait a second, they did a new version, and they lost the thumb hole and added a stud, and I messaged him. I said, hey, I see you did a new Drift. Have you, is this worth checking out again? They said, yes, it is. I said, okay, can I take a look? And I told them, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk. They still did send it along. Nonetheless, we have to assume this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best not to let that affect the nature or quality of my review. Next thing, let's do some size comparison. First off, here it is against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Delica. And so what we see here is this is not a particularly large knife. In terms of blade length, we are right around the same sharpened length as the Delica, even though the legal length is a little bit longer, and a little bit smaller than the PM2 on pretty much every dimension. And here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2. And again, very similar size, very similar profile as the Ontario Rat number 2. And then finally, here's a relevant size comparison. That is the QuietCarry Waypoint. In many ways, the Waypoint was sort of the natural successor to the Drift. I feel like the Waypoint got everything right, where the Drift had some a little bit of a stumbling, so to speak. And so this is a very real comparison in a number of different ways. But yeah, the Waypoint is a little bit longer on pretty much every dimension and a little bit bigger in the pocket, etc. So there's that. And then finally, you might be thinking to yourself, Nick, you already reviewed the Drift. What gives? Well, this is a different version. The original Drift had a hole right about here. Now, I don't have one of the originals around anymore. That ended up being a knife that didn't stick around for the reason we'll talk about a little bit later. But and that was a knife that was really, really good, but also really, really frustrating because it was so excellent in so many ways, but then the opening was a problem because it had a hole that made it, that was okay for a flick opening, but the detent wasn't strong enough to make that a thing. So it was a knife that was really, really good at every time except opening. And the deployment on it, though, was just not very good. And so it felt like a shot out of the park that bounced off a light pole and landed in the stands, right? Not amazing at all. No, I'm sorry, it was a very good knife, but it wasn't amazing that it had that one flaw, right? It was like, you are the chosen one. And so seeing this second version left me wondering, did they fix it? Is it better now? And so let's find out and talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting knife. So on the good side to start with, they actually lowered the price a little bit, right? In my notes, the original Drift was $315. Now it's down to $300. That's not the direction everyone else has been going, so yeah, good. Rock on. I mean, look, $300 is a lot of money for a pocket knife, 100%, but this is a high-end piece with Van Axe steel with very, very nice construction. I can't really get too bent out of shape about it, right? It feels in line. And you can actually get one a little bit cheaper if you're willing to do G10 handles on both sides. Then you can get down to $250, which no argument there. Next thing, a nice size on this guy. What we're looking at here is a blade length that is just under 3 inches here, although the sharpened length is a little bit smaller, a little closer to 2.75-ish, not quite there, 2.6, whatever. A relatively small size, but it is very thin as well here. This is, I mean, if we put this up against a Spyderco Delica, we see this is actually a little thinner in the pocket than the Delica, which I appreciate very much, and it makes this guy just so easy to carry. This is so nice in the pocket. It fits just beautifully. I can't argue with that, and with that thinness, with the smoothness along the back, yeah, it's good. It's really nice to carry. Next thing, there were lots of textures and configurations here. This has a kind of a knurled texture to it, although you can also get it with a smooth texture like we see, well, actually on the back side of this, but like we see on the Waypoint here. And honestly, I kind of like the knurling. It feels nice in the hand. It gives it a little bit more visual intrigue. Can't argue with that. But I like the fact that you got different textures, configurations. They've even experimented with like Cerakote versions of other knives. I like that they're willing to do a bunch of different varieties there. And they're doing the same basic thing, but they're given short runs of different aesthetics. That to me is a win. Right, so that's great. Next thing, clip on this guy. Although it is not ambidextrous, unlike the Waypoint, it is a very, very nice clip with a very deep carry wire clip, which is great, as well as a lanyard hole that is interesting in that you kind of stick the lanyard through here and then into this little gap here, which works just fine, but it is completely unobtrusive and you can't see it from the show side. And that's the very best thing that a lanyard hole can be, which is invisible. So I appreciate that very, very much. Next thing, this guy is using amazing phosphor bronze washes, which is great. And it makes this action, which is quite good and quite snappy, all the better, and makes it very low maintenance, which I appreciate very much. Next thing, the design on this guy is good. You can see here there's an internal lock bar relief. That little cutout here to weaken the lock bar to allow it to move a little bit more freely is on the inside, making this guy very, very smooth. And it just, with a over travel stop, etc., this is just really nice. And then coupled with some of QuietCarry's classic design touches, the 4 dots, etc., which, by the way, I forget who pointed this out the other day, but yeah, it looks like the thing should charge, right? Like right now, it's at full capacity. Anyways, I digress. This is that's a beautiful thing. And then, honestly, like the stonewash looks good. The materials look good. This is just a good looking knife, I think, overall. It's a nice looking design. And so that's good. And then finally, I'm sorry, not quite finally at all. The next thing is the blade on this guy is good. It is a relatively thin blade. The blade stock on this is quite thin. In fact, it's nice to see a maker remember that, you can get stock this thin, right? And if we compare this to, for instance, it's even thinner than the Spyderco Delica's stock, and put it up next to the PM2, yeah, that's going to cut a little bit better, right? I like that very much. And it's also reasonably high hardness, and it's Vanax. And Vanax is a great steel for many reasons, but maybe the biggest among them is that it is completely rust-proof, which is a beautiful thing, complete with a big old sharpening choil that works like a charm and also works as a finger choil. Yep, this is a good blade. And then next thing they did, they improved the opening here. They've gone from that hole, which was fine, which was designed to kind of flick out with your index finger, to a thumb stud that is ambidextrous here, which is just, oh yeah, that's good. That is a really, really nice thumb stud opening. It's great. They strengthened up the detent. This opens beautifully, reliably. This is everything that I wanted the Drift to be in terms of oh man, that's good. And then finally, they made a couple of other little fixes too, right? They fixed the sharp corner that was living here. They rounded the edges of the sharpening choil a little bit to make that easier. They lost the opening hole, which, didn't do that great. And then they also improved the lock bar access. This is, it's like they watched, the feedback from the community and then just said, okay, yeah, we'll fix that. And then you got this, and that's good. That's really good. And so to me, all of that is the good, is that they made a bunch of fixes, fixed the opening, the great blade, great design, phosphor bronze washes, great clip, other textures, nice size, and a little bit of a price drop, even if it is still a pricey knife. The great side to me, did I mention that the entire knife is completely stainless? Yeah, this knife cannot rust. That's a heck of a little, oh, and by the way, detail here, right? It's absolutely amazing because all the hardware is not rustable. The lock bar inserts, LC200N, the Vanax, it's run hard, and apparently, at least this was the case historically for the Drift. This was done by Peter's Heat Treat, and it is just now another rust-proof knife. And this is something that can be a real factor for some people, whether it's because you live in the swamps, and no matter what you do, you're going to be dealing with a lot of water and humidity, or maybe it's just because you're out at sea all the time, you're an ocean kayaker, I don't freaking know, but either way, this is a knife that is very, very nice and also happens to be completely unable to rust. And that is absolutely a wonderful thing. I think it's something that is a cool market differentiator and turns this from being what would have otherwise been a very nice knife into something that's going to be an exceptionally nice knife for a certain group of people too. So, yet, by the way, Vanax is a steel that happens to be rust-proof, but I also wouldn't mind carrying on a regular basis. Vanax just needs to be used more, generally speaking. Absolutely great steel. So to me, at least, that's what's great, is it happens to be completely stainless. All right, so on the bad side, to start with, I mentioned last time, the design on this guy feels a little bit less unique in that there are other things that kind of feel a little bit analogous to it. It's not like, oh my God, completely out of left field, but at the same time, that's not a huge deal. It just feels like a number of things out there. And, yeah, that's actually it. That's the bad. It turns out that when you take a knife and then you listen to all the feedback that reviewers in the community gave you and you fix those things, you end up with a knife that's really good. And knife makers, did you catch that bit? Oh, the bad goes away when you fix it. Anyways, I digress. That's really the only complaint I have, and that's a non-complaint. So to me, what's bad is that the design is maybe a little less unique, and that's it. That's it. There's no ugly either. So now we go into the conclusion. And holy crap, guys, this knife is magnificent because they fixed the things that were wrong with a magnificent knife, right? It has a thin blade. It has a thin edge, an amazing steel. It's carryable. It's ergonomic, and by the way, just happens to be completely rust-proof. And then they fixed all the freaking issues. This is good. I mean, last time I said this knife is a hit off the park, hit out of the park that bounced off the light pole, right? Kind of like everyone knows that this should have been there, but then one little silly issue stopped it, right? That was super unsatisfying. I'm going to be honest with you. As a reviewer, that one was really tough because, like I said, it had that just like, oh, so close feeling to it. This time, QuietCarry walks up to the plate, keeping up the metaphor. They called the shot right down the middle, knocked it clear out of the park, right down the middle, dodged every pole, and bounced off the windshield of some jerk who's parked in the middle of 4 spaces to keep his Beamer spotless, right? This is good to see. Like, to see them turn around and just do it right was like, yes, 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 yes. And this is proof of the adage that the difference between good and great is iteration, right? The Drift was a really nice knife with a few problems that left it really good rather than great. And with an iteration, this is now one of the best knives in production. Like, period, right? This is a knife that I'm going to be recommending a great deal. I love the Waypoint. It's a knife I've also recommended a great deal. But now that the Drift is fixed, I think that this is going to be a little just, I don't know, I like the size a little bit more. I think I like the ergos a little bit more on the Drift. This to me is going to be a knife I recommend all the damn time. This knife is absolutely a gem, right? It is a shining freaking gem. It is one of the knives that is just proof that, like I said, iteration is a hell of a drug, right? It makes some amazing stuff, and it's probably going to end up getting carried more than the Waypoint just because I like the size a little bit more. And three months in, this is already a strong contender for Knife of the Year. I don't know whether it's legal, so to speak, in my own damn contest. I make the law to include this as Knife of the Year, but it's at the very, very least, it's going to be a strong honorable mention. But it is a really, really, really excellent knife. And so QuietCarry, I mean, seriously, well done. Good job. Keep doing this, right? Keep iterating. You know, put something out, hear the community, and then fix the issues, and then keep ordering a lot of these. Make more. Just keep them coming. Keep them coming. If these guys can be regularly available, this is going to be an absolutely amazing choice for a lot of people. Right? For the rust-proof crowd, for the EDC crowd, for the Fed, this is just good. So keep making these. Well done. Keep hearing your customers, making the tweaks. And if you keep this up, you're going to continue your rise from being a micro brand to a macro force in the knife world. So well done. And it's really nice to see them drift into the right lane like this. Hope this has been interesting. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.